Yeah, we're live. Hi, guys.
With the BankWest single-use virtual card, you can easily make one-off purchases, which means were you old enough? Do you remember as a tonight is a special edition because, as you know, this coming weekend is 4th of July, and next year, I believe we'll be 250 years old next year. Were you old enough? Do you remember as a kid when we celebrated the bicentennial?
Absolutely.
I mean,
there was a big lead up to that, thankfully.
Yeah.
It's been
I was 10 years old.
50 years ago, correct?
It was 76. So I was 10 years old.
Hey, Guy, good to see you.
Yeah.
I was young, but I can remember it.
Well, we're going to show you tonight how much it's a whole lot different world. We already knew that, but patriotism is at an all-time low. Yeah. It is literally at an all-time low. In fact, let's look at this article here. It says, national pride is declining in America, and it's splitting by party lines, new Gallup polling shows. It says only 36% of Democrats say they are very proud to be an American. 36%, according to a new Gallup poll, reflecting a dramatic decline in national pride that's also clear among young people. The findings are a stark illustration of how many, but not all, Americans have felt less of a sense of pride in their country over the past decade. The split between Democrats and Republicans at 56%.
Hey, Bill, good to see you, mate.
Is as wide as since 2001. That includes all 4 years of the first administration of Donald Trump.
Sorry to interrupt the video, but we have a brief message from today's sponsor. Multiple wars around the globe and central banks are turning to gold. Gold is the most in-demand safe haven asset among central banks.
Yeah.
Demand for gold comes as central banks look to move away from the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar is the only currency central banks are looking to reduce exposure to. The U.S. dollar has sunk to its lowest level in 3 years. The Citibank CEO warned, sovereign wealth funds are diversifying more aggressively. According to Nassim Taleb, gold is now the world's reserve currency. As of July 1st, gold is now classified as a Tier 1 full reserve asset.
Yeah, well, I've got no gold, so it's not going to interest me.
450-6380.
It says Democrats' pride in being American has dropped, and there's the chart here. That's just crazy to me.
My.
That is just crazy.
Oh.
Look at that. I mean, along party lines. So here's the thing tonight. The thing tonight. We love America. And, I mean, I think everybody on this channel loves America. But we forget how young we are. 250 is
compared to Europe, compared to the Middle East, of course.
And China and all these countries, Egypt and all these. So we're still a young country.
Yes.
And we are the first country to ever have a completed written constitution. I don't know if you knew that. There were versions of it, but we were the first country to ever have an actual written constitution that declared rights to the citizens of that nation. And so, people talk about the Roman Empire and all these empires that we talk about all the time. They all have one thing in common. They rose to power and they're no longer.
They fell.
Yeah.
In a spectacular way.
And there's a pattern that's happening in America that's very similar to the Roman Empire. And so,
let me tell you something. You probably won't remember this.
Phil, they want you to sign in that link you gave.
We used to get the Jimmy Swaggart magazine.
Oh yeah, I remember the magazine.
He did an article, or someone did an article that was in this magazine, and it talked about it. Basically, it was a comparison, I believe. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about 1980s here, of Rome and America.
Wow.
It compared, basically, I'll throw two things out there. The love and infatuation with food, love and infatuation with sports. Of
being entertained.
Ancient Rome.
Are you not entertained?
Bread and circuses.
That's right. In America. And this was 40 years ago.
Wow.
And
And our country was much more patriotic then. I mean, can you
yes.
imagine that him saying that now? Because now it's like, I mean, you have people every day in the streets chanting death to America in our own country.
Yes.
It's insane.
Oh my God.
It's insane.
Let's add one more thing.
Okay.
I wish I had this in here with me. Oh, this would be a great time to show this. Tell everybody what I showed you the other day. What got washed in? It was in one
Oh,
of the pockets
the penny.
of the pair of jeans or shorts one of us was wearing, and it was laying in the bottom of the washing
It's
machine.
almost like a microcosm of our country.
Yeah.
She came in there and she goes, Larry, you've got to see this penny that I washed. And y'all, she washed, the penny was down, looked like a nickel. I mean, it was painted.
It barely
penny was
had
painted.
any copper.
Yeah, well, I don't even think there was copper. I think it's
Right.
I think
Wow. I heard it's more expensive to make nickels than it is that they're worth. You know what I mean?
You understand?
It's
It's not
plated.
solid copper.
no.
But one
it was-
wash in the washing machine, it was more silver than it was copper.
Exactly.
I'd almost cry
America. What's
because
happened to America?
is that not yet another
Yeah.
comparison to ancient Rome?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They started, what did they do? Make the coins smaller. They
Yep.
started making it less than full metal or whatever they had been making it. This is scary.
It's the pattern.
Do an experiment. Do an
Full
experiment.
circle.
I know you're not supposed to deface the money or do anything to
Yeah,
destroy the money.
right.
Just simply leave one in your pocket and
Yeah,
wash it and
yeah.
let us know what happens.
It depends on what year it is.
Right.
Yeah,
This
if
apparently
it's an older one.
this apparently
Yeah.
was a pretty new one.
Yeah.
I'd tell you what year, except
It washed off. That is crazy.
but listen, one more thing about the money. If you're talking about a penny, just hold it in your hand.
Yeah.
It doesn't
It feels
even-
like nothing.
It feels like nothing.
It's like a feather.
It's like air.
Yeah. Well, let me just tell you about our great country. If you're looking for something to do on 4th of July, maybe you could join a Free America protest. That's an anti-Trump protest. And get this, in all 50 states, they're going to be protesting Donald Trump on the 4th of July. America. Hey, by the way, thank God you live in a country where you can do that. You know, you got the freedom to do that. Other countries, if you did that against
Exactly.
the sitting president or prime
I'm sure
minister,
you did.
you might be unalive.
You still can today, so you might want to think about partaking.
So Free America is what it's called. Free America events protesting Donald Trump's administration are set to be held across the country throughout the 4th of July weekend. The events follow other nationwide protests against the Trump administration and its policies, organized by the 50-51 movement, which means 50 protests, 50 states,
5501.
50-51.
Okay, is that what they're calling it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
50-51.
looking at
The
the
50-51
okay.
movement, 50 protests, 50 states,
That's
and
the
one
website.
movement,
Mm-mm.
and other groups since he returned to office in January. Millions of people took to the streets for the No Kings protest on June 14th, targeting Trump's military parade, marking the Army's 250th anniversary that coincided with his 79th birthday. People took part in this protest. Free America Weekend is being organized by the Women's March, which was launched in 2017 as a grassroots group of women outraged over Trump's 2016 presidential win. Women's March is urging people to host or join community events during the holiday weekend. This July 4th, while the U.S. marks Independence Day, we'll gather across the country on porches, in town squares, backyards, and streets to stand for real freedom and build a vision
Okay, now we know where they are, so we can throw rocks at them.
of a free America, brick by brick. Free America is wherever we are. Free America is whatever we make it. Host or join a July 4th Free America action rally, barbecue, march, art builds, community block parties, and more to celebrate real freedom. At least 170 Free America events are being planned for the holiday weekend in numerous states, including New York, California, Texas, and Florida, according to Women's March. So, wow, what a way to celebrate America.
Build your own 4th of July celebration, right?
Unbelievable, y'all. Unbelievable.
Hey, Kanglon.
King Lon is in the house. We know who King Lon is. We know his real life.
We know who you are. And Pamela, we are praying for your sweet little cat.
Which family?
Pamela Baker. She said
Oh,
her,
what?
yes, she said her sweet little baby is about to have its 3rd or 4th surgery in 2 years. So
We might have talked about that.
Did you
I'm
talk?
not sure. I'm not sure. But,
Can't hear.
but,
It's been a whirlwind.
yeah.
When did you leave?
Yeah, exactly.
Saturday.
I can see you miss me. You didn't even know how long I've been gone. But hey, if you want to join a 4th of July, a traditional 4th of July celebration this weekend, sorry, a lot of it's being canceled out of fear of ICE raids. ICE fears have shut down July 4th events in multiple California cities. Wonder why in California cities. And why? What are they worried about? Okay. Several Southern California cities have discontinued plans for various July 4th events, citing safety concerns and immigration enforcement in public posts announcing the cancellation. The suburban Los Angeles cities, each overwhelmingly Latino in population, have scuttled plans, movie screenings, and Independence Day celebrations as fear of ongoing immigration and customs enforcement raids continue to ripple through the state. One town southeast of downtown Los Angeles decided to postpone a planned July 3rd Independence Day party due to recent events and concerns regarding the safety of our residents. Now, here's my question. Not trying to be mean or hateful here. This is a day, one day of the year that we set aside to celebrate the birth of a nation. Now, we're going to get into the facts of that a little bit later to try to correct some misconceptions there. But, you know, American citizens shouldn't have fear to go out in the streets and celebrate. So what are they celebrating? If you are legal and you're waving the flag of another country, what were you going to celebrate that day? Because you're not a citizen of the country. Help me understand this.
Oh boy, you're opening a can of worms.
I know it.
Buddy.
I'm just sort of in la la land right now. So I'm tired. So I don't know what's going to come out.
Well, what you're talking about is
Oh, bloody ads.
basically one of the things that is wrong with our country and wrong in our country. We don't shun immigrants who want to assimilate and become American citizens.
No.
Right?
Oh, no.
Our arms are open wide for you to go through the correct process and become a part of our proud nation.
Yes.
Proud in the most positive sense of the word. But we all know the reason there's so much angst and anger and frustration and why we're even talking about this story in the first place is because the opposite of that has been going on for so long.
Nailed it. Hey, but here's some good news. 4th of July gas prices are lowest since 2021. Okay, there's a little good news there.
Now, hang on just 1 second. What?
Yeah.
Gas prices are up 20 cents.
Baby, you forgot how big they were.
Since a month ago.
You forgot how high
Apparently,
they were.
I'm forgetting how much they were only 4 years ago.
You're going to see the chart. Okay. Gas Buddy forecast July 4th gas prices to hit the lowest since 2021. The 25 Independence Day gas price forecast has been released by Gas Buddy. This year's forecast has one big highlight. 4th of July gas prices are set to be the lowest since 2021. With tensions in the Middle East.
Gas prices in the Boise area.
Who's that talking?
21
Where's that at?
cents
Who's
over
talking?
last week.
Who's talking?
The gas
Not her, she's doing weather.
average price for a
There
gallon
it
of
is.
gas in the Boise
There it
area
is.
now $3.30.
Video started on its own. Okay, let's let it play.
Okay, stop.
Now, wait a minute.
That is 23 cents higher than a month ago, but still 21 cents lower than a year ago. We are now higher than the national average, though. That's
I
318.
need
gap.
that done
All right, so
today
let's
too.
see if we got the chart. Okay,
Yeah.
here's the chart,
Okay.
all the way back to 2021. It was 343. Let's see, no,
Average
average 308.
308.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how they come up with that,
so
but
that ends up being
The pumps for drivers
Okay,
this week,
stop-
according to
stop
gas,
playing,
gas
stop
prices
talking.
have fallen
Stop
12
talking.
cents in the last week, now averaging
Stop talking.
$3.20 per gallon in Boise.
what kind of
Gas prices are
website
still
is
about
this? I
5
had a
cents
chart
higher
that
than a
shows.
month ago.
Gremlins are
National average
out.
price
Okay.
is
They're out in
$1.21
there.
per gallon,
Wow.
which is about a cent
So,
lower than the
of
average.
that
The whole state
uh,
of Idaho
there it
is
is,
averaging
there
$3.12 a gallon.
Wow, that's a lot of lives lost in the flood, Diane. Wow, the poor buggers.
cents per gallon, which is up 2
Yeah,
cents.
yeah.
from last
So, do you think when it says average that that's really reflects what prices end up being for us? Because that
Bad news for
is,
drivers. Gas prices are taking a big jump. That's according to gas money. Take a
2 or
look. The
whatever
average
cents
price.
more
When 22,
than what it is right
it was
now.
almost $5 on July 4th. It was like $4.98 on the chart. Is what it got up out west
Okay.
where they're doing it. So that
So you're talking about mostly these numbers are from West Coast.
no, it's national. It's
and
national.
It is
It's
national.
national. Yeah.
Why am I not remembering that? I think
Oh, I
we were
definitely
building a
remember.
house that year,
I don't.
right?
Yeah.
And that was not a banner year.
No.
Just gonna be honest.
I'll be honest with you. I'm almost checked out. I almost just left this world.
There was a span of time where, sadly, you did not know what day of the week it was.
What does this say? Hey y'all, you've influenced my queen. Holy Spirit had us live on Facebook with the good, bad, and prophetic news back in 2020, shortly after we met y'all. All right.
Right?
Okay, look here.
Diane and Mike from around the world and Paul Begley were talking about how a plane dropped out of the sky in Japan, fell 26,000 feet before they got back the power. Pretty sure that's what he said.
This is a good little video. I feel like we need to watch tonight. It's from PragerU, which I typically endorse them. I'm not 100% always in support of everything they do, but I like it. Patriotism, why we need it. I told y'all this is a special broadcast tonight. Let's watch this and react to this. I really think this is good.
What kind of future will the United States have if young Americans are taught to have contempt for their country?
Mm-hmm.
To say the least, it's not a happy prospect. Yet from all accounts, that's exactly what's happening. Ask sixth graders what they know about George Washington, and they're likely to answer, he owned slaves. Well, that's true. It's only one part of Washington's story. The full story, of course, is that America's first president was one of the
I love how they blame whites for slavery, but it was the Americans that freed the slaves in the Civil War, yet we're supposed to be the big boogeyman.
great men of his age, universally admired for his bravery, integrity, and visionary leadership. Washington was a remarkable man, but only one of many remarkable individuals throughout American history. This was once taken for granted. Now it's barely acknowledged. For someone who's admired America from afar and has now made it my home, I find this very troubling. I've always considered Americans' deep love for their country, their patriotism, to be not only part of their charm, but a major reason for America's success. Now I see that patriotism being undermined in, of all places, America's classrooms.
100%.
The 1619 Project, for example, which contends that America was conceived in
Didn't Trump stop funding to Harvard for this precise reason? I'm pretty sure he did.
racism in 1619, rather than in freedom in 1776, is taught in over 4,500 schools. Instead of teaching young Americans to revere their country, the left-leaning educational establishment seems bent on teaching them to be ashamed of it. Are they succeeding? From what I've seen, patriotism still thrives in much of the country, especially in the South. You can feel it under 1,000 Friday night football lights as the crowd rises for the Star-Spangled Banner. You can sense it in every small town parade on the 4th of July. But there's no question that this
Yeah, I reckon the Americans got a great national anthem. I actually like, and New Zealand's got a good national anthem as well.
patriotism is fading.
Oh, thank
In fact, in many places, it's disappearing altogether. Okay, you say. So what? Why is this such a big deal? Because patriotism is the glue that holds America together.
you. Amen.
To love America is to love the
And
values
God.
it stands for. Above all, freedom. the value for which America, more than any country in history, has been known: freedom of speech, freedom to practice the religion of one's choice, freedom to pursue one's own interests with the minimum of government interference.
Do you remember at the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war, they accused Russia of bombing a hospital? When they showed the hospital, there was no signs anywhere to say it was a hospital, and the door was only a normal wide door. You wouldn't have been able to fit a gurney on it with a patient. It wasn't a hospital at all.
These are the values that unite Americans, not ethnicity, skin color, or anything else. These are the values that have made America a magnet for the world. Ronald Reagan once observed that you can live in France but never become a Frenchman, or in Turkey or Japan without ever becoming Turkish or Japanese.
Think about this.
That anyone from any corner of the world can come to live in the United States.
I'm surprised you have Christian camps, Diane. We haven't got that.
And become an American. That's because America's about a set of ideas. To me, a Brit, this feels like magic. But the magic only works if you buy into these ideas. To do so makes you a patriot. But if America loses that patriotic spirit, well, if that happens, Americans will stop thinking of themselves as individual citizens united by a common set of values and begin to define themselves in terms of their race, ethnicity, religion, or some other designation.
It's already happening, isn't it?
America would soon start to resemble the places its immigrants once fled. Over here would soon become little different from over there. Am I suggesting that America's perfect or even close to it? No one's ever made that claim. But before you judge the United States too harshly, you should compare its history with the likes of Germany, Russia, or China, or any country in Africa or South America for that matter. From that perspective, America looks pretty good. And the closer you look, the better America looks. 3 times in the 20th century, America helped rescue the world.
Okay, that'd be because the British. I lost where I was going with it.
War against German militarism, in the Second World War against the Nazis and the Japanese Empire, and in the Cold War by defeating Soviet communism. The left often rages against American imperialism. That's nonsense. The United States has had the power to plant its flag almost anywhere on Earth. But what did it do instead? It planted its flag on the moon. People often think of Americans as being boorishly self-confident.
Maybe.
But I find them to be quite humble. Yes, Americans love to loudly celebrate their patriotic holidays, but perhaps the most important day in the American calendar marks neither victories nor battles. It's Thanksgiving, the day set aside for national gratitude.
Wow.
You know what I noticed with Americans like you guys? You've got a great sense of humour. You're same as me. You love a laugh.
We're the only one.
For good reason. Everyone living in the land of the free and the home of the brave, indeed any American with common sense, has so much to be grateful for, whenever and by whatever means their ancestors arrived. They're all the beneficiaries of the hard work and good choices made by those who came before them. Choices like declaring independence, setting up a constitutional republic, ending slavery and fighting fascism and communism. That's what should be taught in our schools.
Lord, there's 24 girls missing at a Christian summer camp. I bet their parents are really freaking out. Lord, can you make them safe and bring them home, please? They're the ones lost in the summer Christian camp. They're out honouring you, Lord, so please look after them. Amen.
We need to foster a love of America, not contempt for America, if we want to keep America. I'm Douglas Carswell, president of the Mississippi Center for Public Policy.
Hey, boss,
at
good
Reagan
to see you,
University.
mate.
Is it fitting that we need a Brit to
Yeah,
present that?
exactly.
to us?
And he doesn't sound like he's from Mississippi.
No, he doesn't.
I didn't hear Mississippi in there.
You know,
But look, hey, you can say what you want to say.
I always
America
do it the
is
wrong
far
way.
from perfect, and our history has got some pretty dark places, very dark places in our past. But what he said, we've still done things that no other country's ever done.
absolutely. Wonderful.
I mean, that was good. That was
It was
good.
good.
I mean, look, God bless America. Okay.
Absolutely. I love that.
All right, here we go. So let's talk about things that you didn't know about America and the 4th of July. 15 fun facts you didn't know about the 4th of July. Some of these you're going to know, and some of these you're going to be surprised. You ready?
Can't wait.
You have not seen. I wish I had a drum roll.
Yeah, you were surprising me with this segment.
All right, here we go.
That wasn't a
We
bad
didn't
drum roll.
actually declare independence on the 4th of July. Did you know that? Did you know that?
No.
Apparently I did not.
Okay.
Because
Well-
I thought it was declared on the 4th
Okay.
of
Well, okay. Here it's yes and no.
July. Okay.
One of the greatest misconceptions of the 4th of July lies in the name and the date. It is widely believed that America declared their independence from Britain on July 4th, 1776. However, the official vote actually took place 2 days before, and the declaration was published in papers on July 4th.
Wow.
Interesting. And it was signed several weeks later by 50 of those. Only
Did this
two.
happen in the Continental Congress building?
Yes. Yes. All right. Now, the designer of the 50-star flag lived in Lancaster, Ohio. That's pretty interesting. And believe it or not, it was made in 1958. So that's
What?
interesting.
Back
Yeah.
up, say that again?
Because of Hawaii and Alaska. When they
Oh.
were added. It's hard to believe that they've not been a state that long.
I know.
So here's some more things here. America will enjoy 150 million hot dogs during the 4th of July.
That's all?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think it'd be more than
you
that.
think it'd be more than that? Yeah. I don't know how old this article is. Only 2 men signed the Declaration of Independence on the 4th of July. Charles Thompson and the infamous John Hancock were the only 2 men who actually signed the Declaration of Independence on July 4th. The other 54 delegates signed over the course of the next month.
So you mean John Hancock was either number 1 or number 2?
Yeah.
And his signature
It
is
was
so giant.
That's why, because there wasn't nothing on there, so he just took
Okay, I don't know about John Hancock. It sounded like he was a bit of a villain.
the whole paper and he just said, "Hey, look at here, King George. You ain't even gonna have to have you." Remember, he said, "You ain't gonna have to have your spectacles to see my name." All right. There is something written on the back of the Declaration of Independence, and no, it's not a treasure map written in this way.
Where
That's immediately what I thought.
are you? What's his name? The actor.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
Where's old Nick Cage? It says, according to History Channel, a simple message is written upside down across the bottom of the signed document that reads, "Original Declaration of Independence dated 4th July 1776. According to the same article, no one knows who wrote this or when, but it was believed to have been added as a label during the years of the Revolutionary War when parchment was frequently rolled up for transport.
Wow.
That's so interesting.
That is so interesting.
One sign later recanted the Declaration of Independence. I didn't know this. Richard Stockton, a lawyer from New Jersey, became the only signer of the Declaration of Independence to recant his support for the
He was
revolution
the where's that? What state?
of New Jersey. And
He ended up in Gitmo.
he said he recanted his support for revolution after being captured by the British November 1776 and thrown in jail. After years of abusive treatment and his recanting of loyalty, Stockton was released to find all his property destroyed or stolen by the British.
How about that?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
thought you was gonna get away with something? You thought you was gonna get your stuff back?
Yeah, and his library was one of the finest in the college.
Should
It
have
was
just
burned
stood your
to the
ground and spit in their eye. That's what I would have done.
The average age of the signers was 45 years. Of the 45 years old, of the 56 signers, the youngest signers, Thomas Lynch Jr. and Edward Rutledge of South Carolina, were only 26.
Whoa.
Benjamin Franklin was the oldest at 70 years old. The Declaration of Independence was written on a laptop.
A laptop desk made of
not,
wood?
not a modern laptop, but still. Thomas Jefferson drafted the Declaration of Independence on a writing desk that
Yeah.
could fit over one's lap.
There you go.
The device was referred to at the time as a
Have you
laptop.
ever seen that? I've seen some pictures or illustrations.
That's
of that
interesting.
before.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Men love fireworks. $1 billion worth. According to the American Pyrotechnics Association, Americans will spend more than $1 billion on fireworks each year.
I will agree with that. And
Yeah. And the
My-
dog,
You can't get fireworks on the street in Australia. Too many injuries.
our neighbors have already started.
yeah, and
and
the
they don't-
dogs, they don't love it.
They don't love it,
They
but
don't love
the
it.
neighbors, they don't care. They don't do the cheap stuff.
No,
They've
no.
already been doing the very loud
Big,
and
the bombs.
beautiful displays.
All right, listen to this. Out of that 1 billion, only 10% are displayed professionally, which probably accounts for the estimated 12,900 firework-related emergency room visits across the country.
That tracks. That tracks.
Yeah. Okay, let's see here. And this is pretty cool. This is why we don't really need to get mad about fireworks. Okay, we got to accept it, 4th of July. Okay, because it goes back to 1777. Fireworks dated back as a tradition of Independence Day as early as its first birthday
Vash, I think I broke through on your blue one
in 1777.
on Discord.
John
Check
Adams
it
wrote
out.
in a letter to his wife Abigail that he wanted Independence Day to be celebrated with pomp, parade,
Yeah.
shows, and illuminations.
Awesome.
This original letter was written when Adams presumed that Independence Day would be celebrated on July 2nd, because that's when
That's,
it was first declared.
you think they were getting their fireworks from China back then?
Duh. I don't know. I think China invented it.
No, I'm being silly.
I mean,
but I really do
It's very
believe
possible.
they did.
They really
and that
did.
they
they
were.
really did. Yeah. Okay. This look. I know this is a different show Monday night. Some of y'all are already checking out, but here's okay. It's okay. This is 4th of July weekend. We're just glad to be on the air tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, because we were okay. Never mind. How about this? Wearing Old Glory violates the U.S. code. Some of you knew that. Some of you didn't know that. How many of you own a flag T-shirt, beach towel, shorts, headband, or any other item that represents the U.S. flag? Turns out that you're in violation of the U.S. flag code.
Wow.
The U.S. flag code states that you are in violation if you sell or display any article of merchandise upon which it has been printed, painted, attached, or otherwise placed a representation of the flag in order to advertise, call attention to, decorate, mark, or distinguish the article or substance on which it was placed. That being said, in this instance, the flag code is not enforced or even enforceable, so don't worry, you won't get arrested by the flag police. I get it, I'm in violation, but America.
America.
Okay. All right. So here's just one more thing, and then we'll move on.
You shutting up after that?
No, not shutting up. We're just moving on. Bizarre 50th anniversary. We knew this. Thomas Jefferson at 82 and John Adams at 90 both died on July 4th, 1826, within 5 hours of each other on the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration.
Wow.
Is that crazy or what?
And
That's a jubilee.
Didn't know that
They
each one of them died.
and was not Adams quoted as saying at least
Yeah, at least
Thomas
Jefferson remains.
remains?
At least Jefferson remains.
And it,
Yeah.
listen, guys, you've got to go to Monticello to see
Yeah, if you get
the
that's
house
bucket
that
list.
Thomas Jefferson
Yeah.
built.
Yeah.
His estate, whatever you want to call it, it's so cool. You've got to go see it.
How about this? A lot of people don't know this. July 4th was not deemed a federal holiday until 1870, almost 100 years after the nation was founded.
My goodness.
It was just done as American
Right.
citizens. And it wasn't an actual holiday. How crazy is that? That's crazy.
I would not have expected that.
Well,
Anywho,
for those that are still with us, I know some of you have been asking, how are we doing with the fire at our church? It's a slow process. It's going to take a while. They're still reconstructing, actually still gutting the building, still taking out debris. And I haven't got a chance to go by there yesterday.
When I was a kid, you could get fireworks, and basically, you could buy they're called crackers, and they're like little sticks of dynamite. So here's all these 9 and 10-year-olds running around the streets with little sticks of dynamite. We were blowing up letterboxes and doing all that sort of stuff at 9 years old.
Today, I will tomorrow get an update. But there's a lot of stuff going on, and some of you are still wanting to know how you can help. So one of the ways you can do is just go to solidrockchurch.com, solidrockchurch.com. I'm actually going to put a link on my website, LarryRagland.com, where it make it easier if you just go to one website. But right now, solidrockchurch.com. This is the front page. You'll see a little history of our fire. If you didn't know about it, our church burned on the night before Pentecost this year, June 7th. And we are in a temporary location now. And several of you have given towards it because there's a lot of expense outside of insurance that we didn't think anything about that we're running into. If you'd like to help us, we surely would appreciate it. We thank God for your prayers. But you can go there if you'd like to help us, and we want to just give you that opportunity to do that. All right. Well, you know what? I think it's time. We need to bring old Jim in.
this is a record early entry.
Diane, when I was like 8 or 9, I'm not sure, a guy put a cracker in a glass milk bottle, and the milk bottle blew up, and part of the glass flew in the air and hit my leg. And like I'm only a kid, and split my leg open. I went to hospital for it, and I was one of the reasons they stopped kids buying crackers. There's a couple of more incidents after that, then they stopped us buying crackers after that.
It's
The supernatural AI update.
and Cousin Cosmo
Oh, you brought up big old Cosmo.
is making a
Cosmo,
surprise.
I want to ask you a question. Do you love America?
Oh man.
But he said, of course I do.
Yeah. Of all the
Okay, this isn't going where I thought it was going to go.
countries for him to come to,
Mhm.
he came to America.
Exactly. He knew it was
All the
bad.
new people are like, do they believe in aliens? Do they believe in aliens? We believe that there's something called aliens, but they're demons, fallen angels.
Okay.
When you spend only 0.02% of your time doing bank things, you can spend 21% of your time tickling the ivories. 11.
Were you old enough? Do you remember as a kid when we?
Yeah, you called them cherry bees. We called them flying fairies. They're the second smallest cracker. They're called flying fairies.
Celebrated the bicentennial.
Absolutely.
I mean,
There was a big
Yeah.
lead up to that, thankfully.
yeah,
It's been
I was 10 years old.
50 years ago, correct?
It was 76.
Um,
So I was 10 years
thankfully,
old.
our country made a big deal about that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was young, but I can remember it.
Well, we're going
And,
to show you tonight how much it's a whole lot different world. We already knew that, but patriotism is at an all-time low.
Yeah.
It is literally at an all-time low. In fact, let's look at this article here. It says national pride is declining in America, and it's splitting by party lines. New Gallup polling shows. It says only 30%.
Already done that one.
Want to get into opinions? We can't go back and talk to the founding fathers. We can't ask them point blank what. Do we have a godless constitution? A godless constitution. Is America a Christian nation? Was it ever a Christian nation? Hi, I'm Pastor Dave. Thanks for joining this edition of The Final Hour. I'm excited to be with you.
Okay. We'll do this one now.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a little midweek mania on Now You See TV. We're so thankful for all of you coming out here midweek to join us, and we really have a profoundly exclusive Now You See TV broadcast because you're not going to be hearing about this anywhere else. I think I can safely say that. And this is a very profound prophecy that we'll leave it to you to decide if this is talking about Donald Trump. But John, I am just kind of neat to be here midweek on Now You See TV to kick this around a little bit.
It is neat, man. I'm enjoying doing these kind of midweek things and just talking about stuff that we can't always talk about everything we want to talk about on one show a week. I know you have other shows you do, but it's always fun when me and you kick the can around and talk about some of these things. This one's interesting, man. I read this, and I've read this before in the past, but reading it now just hits a little bit different, I'd say.
And we're going to be introducing a book to you this evening that I imagine will be new to most of you. It's called The Apocalypse of Elijah, and its literary classification would be Old Testament pseudepigrapha. And I have this writing in the collection of James H. Charlesworth, the Old Testament pseudepigrapha, volume 1. And it's a very, very neat book. It was written by a Christian about the year 150. So this was pretty early. It's about 50 years after the Apostle John wrote the book of Revelation. So it's a...
Diane, I swear to God, I was just thinking of Julian McMahon probably a week ago. I thought, because he done a series in America. I forgot what it was about, but he done a series in America, and we hadn't heard from him since. His father was Prime Minister of Australia, William McMahon. So, yeah, I was only thinking to him about a week ago what happened to him. Wow, that's a coincidence.
Early writing.
Yeah, I slept this morning, remember?
Real insight into what Christians believed about Bible prophecy about 50 years after the book of Revelation. And this was a time of intense persecution, when this persecution and martyrdom was very much reality for this believer and all the believers at that time. And kind of the way that I evaluate this book, it is obviously not a scriptural book, but I look at this for what it is. It was a book written by a godly Christian very early, about 50 years after the book of Revelation. And this individual believed that God gave him a word of prophecy. So we'll read that prophecy this evening and we'll judge it. And we'll let you all do likewise. But John, what was your impression after reading this book here, The Apocalypse of Elijah?
Well, it took me a while to read it through the whole thing, but there were several points within that book that I was just kind of eye-opening, almost in shock. Like, how could they have mentioned this? How is it possible that this is talking about who I think it's talking about? And then there was other ones in there too that we may not even get to tonight that are just like, man, like what is this? Like the one part, David, that we're probably not going to get to tonight, where we talked about the Antichrist having the tuft of white hair on the front of his head, like bald with a tuft of hair, and being real tall and skinny legs, like wild stuff that's just hard to, I guess when you look at it, it's less like Revelation because it's not as symbolic, but it's almost straightforward language that you can kind of decipher.
Yeah. And the one passage I like, which maybe we'll get to, is when the beast just spreads his wings, and he flies after the Christians. Just looks like it was the horror movie written before there was a horror movie. But a lot of neat things. And we're going to look at a lot of them and discuss them this evening. And we want all of you, of course, to be able to discern the word of the Lord. But let's start here in, this is in the 2nd chapter in the 6th verse. And it talks about a king of peace that comes from the west. And it says here, and a king who will be called the King of Peace will rise up in the west. He will run upon the sea like a roaring lion. Now, full stop after sentence 1. And all of you, I'm sure, aware that Mr. Trump, and good for him, peace is a good thing. He's trying to bring peace on several fronts. He's already been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. And it says he will run upon the sea like a roaring lion. Well, back during the Iraqi war, there was Operation Lion's Roar that attacked Al-Qaeda in Iraq. And here, just in the very recent history, with the United States-backed attack upon Iran, Operation Rising Lion. We got a lot of lion stuff moving around. And could it be a coincidence that this ancient book, and this is just the start, but it talks about a king of peace from the west coming like a roaring lion. There's a lot of things already that are really dinging a lot of bells here.
I think so too. Like in the Bible, you don't hear a whole lot about the king of the West, I guess. You know, it's more the king of the North, the king of the South,
Yeah.
and even the East sometimes. But the West, I guess, isn't really mentioned a whole lot. But this is giving a face to something that's obviously a very powerful kingdom now. Back then, when this was written, not so sure that the West had a very powerful kingdom that I'm aware of, unless it's speaking of Atlantis or something along those lines.
Yeah. Now,
I mean, what year did you say it was written, David?
about 8150.
8150. So year 8,150. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. This would have just been about 50 years after the death of the Apostle John. So we're talking this is pretty early writing.
Pretty early writing. Yeah.
Pretty early writing. And that of course makes it unique. I love to read these old writings, and you just wonder what was it like to be a believer then, and you get a real feel for it here. It was a life and death situation. Now let's read some more text about this King of Peace from the West, and beginning in verse 12. And this just jumps off the page to me because there's been so much buzz about Mr. Trump and rebuilding the third temple. A lot of buzz about it. And just listen to what it says. He will give vain gifts to the house of God. He will wander around in the cities of Egypt with guile without their knowing. He will wander around in the cities, I'm reading the line again. He will take count of the holy places. He will weigh the idols of the heathen. He will take count of their wealth. He will establish priests for them. He will command that the wise men and the great ones of the people be seized, and they will be brought to the metropolis, which is by the sea. And boy, it made me think of old alligator Alcatraz. But it talks here about giving vain gifts to the house of God and about ordaining priests for this house of God. This just is so eerie about all of the buzz. It just fits like a glove with all of the talk with Mr. Trump and the Third Temple.
It really does. That is so real. The connection it makes between them, the West, and the holy place, and also the people of God is just so unique to that idea, because I don't think there's any other scriptures in the Bible, even in Revelation. They do speak about Babylon. They speak about these spiritual connected places, but this is giving us a physical location. And a lot of the things that have described Mr. Trump, President Trump, and I just want to say this, David, before people jump on us and say we are Trump haters or we're liberals. I can promise you we are not liberals. That is definitely not the case. I would not ever want anybody to think that is even possible. But biblically, when you look at some of this stuff, we're speculating here and thinking, if this is the time of the end, like a lot of people actually think that it is, then should we even look at this and consider what it might mean? Or, I think that we should at least consider what it could possibly mean. We're not here to say Trump is anything other than this is, we're looking at this and we're taking a look at the scriptures and taking a look at these old texts and just seeing like if it's real, what could it be talking about? So I hope that people understand that I know that there's going to be, no matter which side of the fence you go to, if you're not too far on this side or too far on that side, you get kicked from both ends of the aisle, right? On both ditches, you got people throwing rocks at you. But, the narrow way is the way to go. We're just talking about it. So I want to give that disclaimer too, David, before we get going too far in here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and in this Western king, he's not the beast in this apocalyptic writing, but he has a big role to play. And another thing it says here is another thing that Mr. Trump has insisted on. He says there is but one language. And how many times is there, and rightly so, that when people come to our country, they should learn English. Yeah. And I'm on board with that. Absolutely. But there are too many
We've got Muslims from the early 80s that still can't speak English at all. They got contempt for the West. They don't like the West at all.
Things here that just jump off the page. I know when I read it, all I could think about was Donald Trump. I think most people would be like that because this is just too straightforward.
Well, when I read it, this is the only thing I could think about. I don't know that if, you know, because like you said, like I said earlier, we're speculating that we're in the end times. We believe that it's possible that we are in that final generation here. So if this is a legitimate book, then I mean, who else could it be talking about?
Now, if we want a little more confirmation, it says here in chapter 2, verse 17 and 18, now I will tell you his signs so that you might know him, for he has 2 sons. Oh boy, this is how we know him. He has 2 sons, one on his right, one on his left. The one on his right will receive a demonic face, and he will fight against the name of God. And according to this writer, this Western king of peace is going to have 2 sons, and one of them is going to go really, really bad. So in this prophecy, this Western king of peace isn't portrayed as the Antichrist, but he definitely plays a huge role. And we see here that one of his sons goes bad, real bad, and is taken over by the demonic.
It almost reminds me of Joe Biden in a way. He had one son that kind of, you know, went in that route, and you know, it could easily almost fit almost all of our presidents. That's the crazy part about it. Like it can fit a lot of them. Trump has, well, he has 2 sons from one wife, and he has Barron as well. So he has 3 sons, but I guess you could take it like that, you know. So I don't know. It's interesting, but it definitely reminds me of Biden. Biden had one song that definitely had his son that definitely had a demonic aura about it, whatever you want to call it, man. I mean, some of the things he was accused of, if they are even in fact true, which, you know, whatever, then yeah, like that's definitely true too. But
yeah, I know President Biden had one son that died, and then the other one that got himself in a lot of trouble. Yeah. But it's very, very interesting. You know, these are things that I kind of file away and keep in the file cabinet to watch, because there's just a lot of things here that are very, very interesting and could definitely point to President Trump.
I agree, man. It's crazy.
Go right ahead, John.
No, I was just going to say, like, you know, there's so many shows that we've done that when we're talking about President Trump, and we've always been very respectful, because no matter who he is in prophecy, he is appointed by God to be where he's at, just as all leaders that we've ever had in the world are appointed by God to be there. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. They wouldn't have the power unless God gave it to them. So we try to be respectful, but at the same time, there's very interesting anomalies. Let's call them anomalies instead of coincidences, because they're really not coincidences. They're anomalies that deal with him and a lot of the people that he works with. There's just very paranormal type connections is the best way I can describe them. And so this definitely adds to that, I guess, just the way you see it. I see all this, it adds to it in a big way.
And with all of the outrageous symbolism at Mr. Trump's apartment, and it's like he doesn't run from it. It's like he embraces it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's like he enjoys it. And you know, making peace is a good thing. But we know the Bible tells us that when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction will come upon them.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we're hearing a lot. Did you? Oh, there was that one verse, and I don't know, David, if you had it in this round of verses or not, but it talks about how the Antichrist will appear. Do you have that included in here?
Yes. And let's
okay, we'll
have
go
a citation on that.
Not offhand. No, I would, if you're going to go into that, don't worry about it. But it talks about him appearing with doves and all of that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know that passage, and I think that is actually the one where he appears with doves is actually referring to Jesus.
Okay,
I'm
I
not
couldn't
real-
remember it. I have not studied on this book at all, as you guys can tell. This is something that I read, and I've read maybe 2 times in my entire life. But man, oh man, it's something that'll some of the stuff in there will strike you as possibly being true. And I know you guys know what I'm talking about. Like sometimes you'll read something, and it'll just hit you, and you're like, oh man, that literally seems that it's 100% true, or that it's talking about.
That's what happened when I watched Bill Weiser's 23 Minutes in Hell. I knew he wasn't lying, so it made me take the Bible a lot more serious.
Right now, and I know that there's a lot of vagaries and prophecies, but this seems so specific on certain issues.
Yeah. And here's one, and I'm sure I'll run on to that in a minute. But over in, this is in chapter 5, beginning in verse 20. And there's a lot of text here about the Antichrist that he talks about. And the thing we really can take away from this is that this believer and each and every one of the apocalyptic writers, they all believed that there would be a time of terrible tribulation right before the Lord returned, and there would be a man called the Antichrist and the beast that would persecute the people of God. And he is so, and like John said, the book of Revelation is more symbolic, but this really comes out with it. And here in chapter 5, verse 20, this is really something. It's talking about the beast pursuing the righteous. And it says in 5 and 20, then he will take his fiery wings and fly out after the saints. He will fight with them again. The angels will hear and come down. They will fight with him a battle of many swords. I mean, this is just quite a visual image of this guy putting his wings out and the angels coming down. I mean, this is really quite a picture here that the author's drawing for us.
The one part too, where it talks about the coming of the Antichrist, how he'll do all the signs and wonders, and people will see him and they'll have their doubts, but they'll see him telling the sun to go down, or telling the sun to come up, telling the moon to go away. And so he does all of these, supernatural, amazing things, and deceives almost everybody who's left alive. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I can read a little of that text here. This is in, we'll pick it up in chapter 3 and verse 2. And it says here, when the Christ comes, he will come in the manner of a covey of doves, with the crown of doves surrounding him. He will walk upon heaven's vaults with the sign of the cross leading him. The whole world will behold him, like the sun which shines from the eastern horizon to the western.
Do you remember when Pope Francis let 2 doves go out of some window in the Vatican, and they got attacked by a seagull and what was the other thing? A crow. So the 2 peace doves he released got attacked by a crow and a seagull. Seriously, it was so funny.
This is how he will come with all his angels surrounding him. And here again, he is emphasizing that when Jesus comes back, you're not going to miss it. Everyone is going to see it. Just like Jesus in Matthew 24,
It's funny, wasn't it?
He says, as the lightning comes from the east and shines to the west, so will my coming be. In Revelation 1 and 7, it says, behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye will see him. It's going to be something that you will not miss. And one thing that we can conclude without fear of contradiction, and I've read, and I know you have too, John, a lot of these early Christian writings before Nicaea, not a one of them. I mean, you won't find anyone to say, oh, Jesus came in AD 70. No, there was none of that. But they all said that Jesus would return, and that when he returned, everybody's going to see it.
Yeah, and the return that he has, the way it's described too, is definitely not what is described in 70 AD by Josephus. It's a whole, this is something that is much more worldwide and not so localized, because what's described by Josephus in AD 70 was a very localized thing that happened. if it wasn't, there would be many more historians that would have written about it and that we would have known. So I agree with you, David. Like I think something happened in 70 AD, like exactly what Jesus said was going to happen. But the second coming of Christ after the 1,000-year reign is a whole nother ball game. We're talking whole world's involved. More bodies that can be buried in massive amounts of years. This is what the Bible says. We talked about that, I think, in a couple episodes ago.
Oh,
yeah.
And no doubt about it,
Diane, I didn't know Turkey had bush. I thought it was all desert.
Destruction of Jerusalem, it was prophesied by Daniel. It was prophesied by Jesus in Matthew 24. It was a huge prophetic event, but it wasn't the return of Jesus, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll just read some more of this verbiage. I'm sure this will probably be the first time that any of you have heard this language, but it's on the works of the Antichrist. And this is what John was alluding to. And this fella really emphasizes that this guy is going to have supernatural power. And on Now You See TV, on FOJC, we talked a lot about how we believe there's going to be some really super demonic miracles that are going to take place when the restrainer is removed. And this certainly is in line with this writer. And I'll read a little bit. You can just hear this text and y'all can see what you think. But beginning in chapter 3, verse 5, but the son of lawlessness will begin to stand again in the holy places. He will say to the sun, fall, and it will fall. Now, this reminds me of the miracle of the sun at Fatima, when this exact thing was described, that literally they saw the sun fall and dance. Thousands of people saw this, and they were there and they attested that it was raining. And I mean, it was a sea of mud, and the mud over a large area, it dried up just almost instantly. And the people, and it was a miracle, but it was a false miracle. And it's interesting that this begins with, he will say the sun fall and it will fall. He will say shine and it will do it. He will say darken and it will do it. He will say to the moon, become bloody, and it.
Apart from that, isn't China making artificial suns?
Will do it. And usually, as I have read, and that the sun becoming dark and the moon blood, that this is something that the Lord would do. But here, this writer says it'll be the beast that brings it about. An interesting twist. It says he will go forth with them from the sky. He will walk upon the sea and the rivers as upon dry land. He will cause the lame to walk.
Vast, I was pretty small as a kid. They tried to bully me, but I'd throw things. If they were too big for me, I'd go and pick up rocks and throw it at them. Bugger them. I'm not letting people bully me.
Cause the deaf to hear. He will cause the dumb to speak. He will cause the blind to see.
That's when I was a kid that I'd throw rocks at him.
The lepers he will cleanse. The ill he will heal. The demons he will cast out. And it goes on to say that the one thing he can't do is raise the dead. But a lot of this book is dedicated to being able to tell the real Jesus from the false Jesus. And it is certainly a miracle working beast that this guy's looking for.
David, I was talking to my sons today. They're both been, they're young, but they're super interested in.
Vast, what purpose are they making an artificial sun? For energy? It'd have to be for energy.
Bible prophecy, and both of them. And, they don't even listen to my broadcasts. I don't really, it's not that I don't want them to, but I want them to be interested if they're going to listen, because I don't want them to make them listen. But they've been doing their own independent research, talking about it, and they're like, Dad, I think we're in the end times. And they're coming to me talking about it. Like, did you know that there's a beast with 7 heads and 10 horns? I'm like, yeah, I did know that. And I get to thinking about it. It's like, and they asked like how they would know. And I said, listen, if you guys obey God, you do what God tells you to do. You don't get corrupted by money. You don't get corrupted by things. And you You just do what God tells you. You follow the commandments of God, and you trust Jesus, and you don't bow to everything that goes on around. I was like, you're
I like John. He's a fair dinkum guy, isn't he?
going to be okay. You're not going to get trapped in the world. If you get trapped in the world, then yes, you're going to have problems, because it's going to be really hard for people to deny all the things that they've been used to for all of these years. People are going to have a hard time denying, just going up to the grocery store, maybe even denying going to on a travel or whatever. But we have to know that we follow God. And that's one of the things about studying prophecy. Even if we don't all agree or understand when the timing is, we have to know that all these things, when we see them, we need to be aware that they're there, that it's a possibility that we're going to be going through all of that stuff. And I tell that to pre-tribbers a lot. Not that I hate pre-tribbers. I don't. I just think that we should always be aware that a lot of this stuff could be happening before you think you're supposed to be raptured up. And we need to know what it is. So if
I thought they were pre-tribbers, these two.
see it, if we see it, it's like, oh man, I've read about this. And it reminds me of the dream I had, David. I had a dream. I told you about this, that it was before I became a believer. And in that dream, the sky was rolling like scrolls of fire. Planes were coming out of the sky. And in my mind, even though I wasn't really a believer at the time, I had been through a lot of bitterness and problems with, God and the church and all those things. And I kind of was just in a bad place in life. But I remembered where that came from. I remembered the scripture that said, oh, I know what that's about because I've read this before. I've had somebody read it to me before. And so just knowing, that's why the Bible, I think, says that there is a blessing for the people that study the books of the prophecies, I really do.
Yeah. And ever since the 70s, I have been warning people of the return of the Lord. It was real to me then. It is right now. And I will never cease, as long as I breathe, to warn people that this persecution is coming. And we're going to look at a little of the text about persecution, but I believe with all of my heart that that's a part of the role that we play, is in warning the Israel of God and warning people that there is something coming and we need to be ready for it, to play our role in bringing in the harvest.
Yeah.
Now, I've got this passage, John, you were talking about. This really is something, and it talks about the signs of the Antichrist, and it describes them. Now, wouldn't it be something if we see a dude like this?
I know. I was thought about getting a hold of Adam and saying, hey, can you draw this dude it's describing here? Like, let's get an outline of this guy, like a most wanted picture,
Yeah, like a facial recognition thing, like in the cop shows. Yeah. Well, Adam, if you're listening, let's do that, buddy. And it says, for behold, I will tell you his signs, that you might know him. Speaking of the Antichrist. He is of a skinny-legged young lad, having a tuft of gray hair at the front of his bald head. His eyebrows will reach to his ears. There is a leprous bare spot on the front of his hands. He will transform himself in the presence of those who see him. He will become a young child. He will become old. He will transform himself in every sign, but the signs of his head will not be able to change. Therein you will know that he is the son of lawlessness. Now, this really, it's like it's describing an entity that can shapeshift, but he can't change his head. So this head, we might want to remember this, because it's really quite a detailed description here.
Yeah, and that's the easy one to test right there. It's not like we're talking about a beast with 3 or 4 horns. We're talking about a dude with a gray tuft of hair in the front of his head. So being able to track if this one's true or not, we might get a chance in our lifetime to see, right? We might get a chance to see if that's legit.
King Charles has grey tuft at the front of his head and bald at the back.
Prophecy. That's interesting. And I don't know anybody that comes to mind off the top of my head, but I would love to get, like you said, a picture of what an artist's rendition of that passage. That would be really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this fellow, that will have supernatural powers. And like I read in that one passage, he can shapeshift, and he can just spread his wings like something out of a Hollywood movie and chase the saints. And there's a couple things here that are really, really quite direct.
Real quick, let me say something, because we're not talking about Trump being able to do any of these things. We kind of skipped around. We talked at the beginning about the King of the West, and that's the one that sounds like Trump, not this guy. This is a different guy. Sorry, we're doing a midweek thing. We're having fun. We're discussing this book of Elijah, so bear with us, So.
Yeah, and like I said, this apocalypse of Elijah does not describe this King of the West as the beast, but he plays a big role, him and his sons. But here, this is the description of
him and his sons. And Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump, they're very active in their father's business. Wow.
Antichrist, and his hatred and supernatural powers are really quite profound. And also, it talks about the seal of God in this book. And that is so important also, of the seal of God protecting this end time remnant. But I'll read a couple passages here that talk about his brutality. And there was a young virgin by the name of Tabitha, and he prophesies that he will kill this woman. I'll just read what it says. And she will be a leader. It says there will be a leader, this lady that will have a lot of influence on people in Jerusalem. But it says here, then, and this is in chapter 4, beginning in verse 3, then the shameless one will be angry at the virgin. He will pursue her up to the regions of the sunset. He will suck her blood in the evening, and he will cast her upon the temple. And pretty graphic, going to kill her and suck her blood. And over in this is farther on here in chapter 4, it talks about what he's going to do to the believers. And it's very, very, well, I'll just read it for you. It says, they and the priest of the land will be brought back bound. He will kill them and destroy them, and their eyes will be removed with iron spikes. He will remove their skin from their heads. He will remove their nails one by one. He will command that vinegar and wine be put in their nose. Now, talk about graphic. This is pretty graphic. And one more thing here. It says that God is going to do something supernatural for these martyrs. And it talks about, and this is reminiscent of what I've heard at Skinwalker Ranch and other places where there's been cattle mutilations, that the predators will not eat those animals. And it says here, it says their flesh will petrify. No wild animals will eat them until the last day of the great judgment. And I thought, man, that is really, that is different than any kind of a prophetic word we've ever heard. And it does fit with the same reports of these animal mutilations and other strange events around UFO phenomenon.
It's strange, man. And I remember Brian, I think when he came on one of our broadcasts or something, he had video, or he gave me video footage of the cow that had happened to, that had been there for a week and nothing had touched it. And it's pretty weird, but yeah, I think that does reminisce of that, and whatever technology is being used. Let me remind people, when I say technology, that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. To me, technology, and then we've called it technology, but what kind of technology does that? And we've seen it, like you said, we've seen it take place in modern day with mutilations and such.
Was another little interesting, and this book isn't that big. It's a quick read, but I mean, there's some really popping stuff in here. And there's something else here I want to read for you because this is really an eye catcher. And it prophesies about the toxic women in the last days. And I'm going to read a little bit here from chapter 2, beginning in verse 35. It says, in those days, the king will command, and all the nursing women will be seized and brought to him bound. They will suckle serpents, and their blood will be drawn from their breast, and it will be applied as poison to the arrows. Now, this is just really something about women that they're going to literally nurse serpents, and their blood is so toxic they can make poison arrows out of it. And this is reminiscent of something that I've read in an apocalyptic book that we've looked at quite a bit, Second Esdras, and also something from African writing called the Kebra Nagast. But in Second Esdras, the 5th chapter, and the 8th verse, it says, there shall be a confusion also in many places, and the fire shall be oft sent out again, and the wild beast shall change their places, and menstruous women shall bring forth monsters. This is the prophecy in Second Esdras, and here we have women that are literally nursing serpents, and this is very much in line with the Genesis 6 scenario we talk about so much, that literally women were giving birth to giants and to half human, half animal creatures. And in the Kebra Nagast, it talks about the daughters of Cain, and it says their daughters were there and they enjoyed orgies without shame. And the daughters of Cain, with whom the angels accompanied, could up and reach man's estate